Okay, here we go again. Tape 3. I guess where I left off was somewhere around the tough times in 1936. Pa was doing construction work, the work the hard way on bridges, and a lot of I think that a lot of it involved putting up pylons and things for bridge work, where they were putting in concrete pilings and the concrete bridges and that kind of a deal way back in 36, 37, when a lot of the work had to be done by hand, and so he was a good worker, and things were going, okay, and we were surviving. We still didn't have any money to waste. We rented out the upstairs on the old house to the Newville family, Ted Newville and his wife, and they had a little boy. He was a couple years younger than me, and so I was sort of a babysitter to them at times, but they only lived there a couple of months, and they didn't have the money to pay the rent, so they were going to move back to Winnebago, and so we were just happier than heck. Here's a chance where we're going to use our upstairs ourselves now. And so when they moved out, we moved everything back upstairs, and Darlene and Mary and I and Marlon, and we're going to have rooms and the whole bit. Well, heck, that lasted one night. The next day they're back again because they got down to Winnebago and they found out they couldn't get on relief down there, so they had to come back to the cities, and so back upstairs they moved again, and so that was kind of a bummer. I don't remember exactly how long they did end up staying, but I think it only lasted a few months longer than they did move back to Winnebago. And then Cousin Vince moved in. He had a motorcycle. He was going to Dunwoody, and so I guess he was taking up some machinist work of some kind at Dunwoody. And let's see, I can remember one cold winter day. It was one of them 1936 winters, I think, was when Mary and I were delegated to take the wagon and go down to the relief outlet where they gave what they called surplus commodities, and we would, being on the WPA roll, we were entitled to surplus commodities that were given out once a month, and we would be sent a postcard that listing the items that we were to be given. And so we take that postcard and we go down to this, at that time, the old Kiss's grocery store, which was on somewhere around Madison and 40th Avenue. Quincy and Quincy. Well, anyway, just down the block from the old Lutheran church there, and across the street. Anyway, the old building was used for giving out commodities, and so I can remember the first time we went there. Mary and I were waiting for the place to open up, and we were to get these commodities and then bring them home and then go to school. And the doggone, we were supposed to be in school probably around 8:30, and the store, commodity store, the guys didn't get there till about 8 o'clock, and colder than heck, you know. And we get in the store there, and then one of the first things they had to do was to try to light a fire in that space heater where they had some coal to burn, and then anyway they passed out the commodities, which in our case, as I recall, some of it was flour and some was cornmeal, and I think there was some potatoes and probably some other staple goods that could be packaged and saved, and so anyway we bundled up the stuff we got and put in the wagon and hauled it back home, and then went to school. And of course we had to do this as fast as we could and run like heck, you know, and then we were still late for school. So that was not a highlight of the day, but that happened. And then let's see, I guess I think it was probably summertime in '37 when the Steyer family, Uncle Al Steyer and his wife Alta, and then Eugene and Warren and Delano. They came up in his Model A, and I can remember that it was quite a highlight because the old Alfred Steyer gave the boys some money, and we're all going to go to the store for bars. Well, what they really meant was candy bars, but anyway, that was the whole thing. We're going to go get a bar, and so Darlene and Mary and Eugene and Warren and I took off for I think it was Dan Walter's grocery store. It was on Mill Street and 40th, and we I can't remember exactly, but I think that each one of us could spend a nickel, which was big money, and so we got our candy bars, and that was a big time treat. But that was the only time that the Steyer family ever made it to the cities, other than Uncle Alfred developed cancer, and he had a growth in his stomach, and so years later, when we had moved over on 38th and Polk, he came to visit, and that was the last time we saw him, because his visit was just a one-day deal, and then he went to the hospital, the university hospital, where they operated on him, but he died there. And so that was the last time they had ever made it to the cities. But I had visited the family in the summertime at Alta's place in Blue Earth for several years after that. I got to go back a ways to answer one of Betty's comments about the first time in the cities. The first trip into the cities was quite impressive. Old Highway 169 came from the Lake of the Isles area. It came through on Lindale, where there was a walkover bridge that was over the road, over the highway that came into town, and the highway itself was these cobblestones. So the first time I'd ever seen a cobblestone street, and then this walkover bridge, and after the hours of driving the highway, then that was pretty impressive to see this walk bridge and cobblestone streets, and then soon we were rounding the one of the lakes, Lake Calhoun, I believe it was, rounding Calhoun, and then on up to Hennepin Avenue, and then driving more cobblestone streets and so forth down all the way from Hennepin all the way up to where we hit Central Avenue up by East Hennepin, and then Central Avenue northward all the way up to where the next impressive area was the hill by Columbia Park, where we kind of left the city again and started what looked to be a little bit countrified, going down that central next to the golf course, and then on up the hill again, and of course following streetcar tracks and seeing streetcars. They were another big deal, and then stop signs, and some of the stop signs, or most of them for that matter, were in the middle of the intersection. They were like a little square pillar about 4 feet high, and then it rotated. It rotated for green for this time and red for you next time, and so on, and that was a little different too. Then we rounded at Central, got up to 40th, and went west on 40th down to the area at 40th and 5th Street. That was another busy section at the time. The Summit Street, where they had that barber shop that is still there to this day, that sort of a triangle building on the corner there. And then the down the street was a butcher shop and a couple of beer joints and dairy shop, and there had been a little park up the street a ways ice and ice house, where you could buy chunks of ice for all the way up to 100 pounds, and then the drugstore, Buffum drugstore, and then around the corner was a hotel, and so it was a busy part of town. A lot of them expected the town to kind of grow up from there. And the Draper family, Uncle Art and Ann Mate, Dad's sister Mate, she was the oldest one of the Kuss girls. And anyway, they lived on Summit Street there, down the block from 40th, about halfway over to 5th Street. Anyway, they lived there, and Chuck and Donald and John and Dorothy, Drapers, and old Art. Art had he worked for the Salvation Army, of all things. He ran a Salvation Army store down on East Hennepin, on the island. They call it the island anyway. It was an island, and I remember that across from the Salvation Army store was an island sickle shop where they sold bicycles. It was kind of a big deal store too. But getting back to the Draper residence, that was a big deal. First trip was seeing all these streetcars in the city, and all the hustle and bustle, and that one of the first things that happens is we had to have a lunch, and Ann Mate had the what they call a twin loaf of bread, which was kind of a double loaf, and you just take a slice out and you put something on one side and you fold the slice over and you got a sandwich. And so that was something different. I never saw bread like that before. Matter of fact, I never had Boudin bread. Ma always made our bread, so Boudin bread was something new too. And then they had mayonnaise to put on it. That day they didn't have Miracle Whip yet. They had mayonnaise. And I don't remember what brand it was, but anyway, that was a sandwich. You put mayonnaise on a slice of bread and put another slice with it, you got a sandwich. And of course that went over big. That was kind of neat. And so Chuck and I and Donald would have our sandwiches and so forth. And Chuck and Donald, they were kind of they kind of bullies for the neighborhood. They sort of the tough guys around there. So they knew all the other kids, and they kind of run the neighborhood. John Draper was older, and he was working somewhere at the time. So I didn't him and Dorothy also. They both had jobs somewhere, so they weren't around. But anyway, Ma and Ann Mate and Pa and him, they remember they got together that night, and they would my Aunt Uncle Paul and Nellie and Bruno and Edith over at one of the taverns that was just down the end of the block on Central, on 40th there. And so that night they were partying at the tavern for so a couple hours or so. I don't remember what, but anyway, that was the thing to do back in those days. You have your party at the beer joint, and so Donald and Chuck and Darlene, Mary and I, we stayed at the house and played cards or something. I don't remember what the deal was. I went to bed early enough that I couldn't get in on too much of anything at night time, but the next morning I'd hear about everything that happened. And of course, Ma was not the type to hang around taverns, but Pa and Bruno and Paul, all of them. I think although Art was there too. I think they had a real big time, and it didn't make Ma too happy about that. They didn't really get in any trouble, but they drank enough that they said things that Ma wasn't pleased about, and so of course that's that's always the last party he gets to go to, and so on. But anyway, in the neighborhood, I can remember the DeMars family were just across the alley from Draper's there, and when Mitch DeMars come down the alley and Chuck seen him, and so Chuck ran over to him and grabbed him home by the collar and said, "What's this I hear about you saying you could beat me up?" And of course, Mitch denied everything, no way. And so Chuck let him go, but it was a case where, Chuck and Donald ran the neighborhood, and they wanted everybody to know it. And so it was one of those deals where when we ended up moving in on 38th Avenue, which was only it was over about 4 blocks to the south of the Draper family, and so it was a case where I did not go out looking for fights or anything like that, but back in those days it happened a lot, and you had to have friends or relatives around, or else you're in trouble. And so having the Draper family around didn't hurt my cause a bit, But Ma told me, well, you ever start a fight, you're going to really get it. But if you run from a fight, you're going to get it too. So anyway, I never really. I never had any real problems. It was a case where I had developed friends and so forth that I got by fine, and my biggest problem was that I didn't like kids making fun of me because I wasn't dressed too good. And so there was a few times when they would stand out on their doorstep or by the sidewalk and make fun of me. I'd chase them back in the house, but for the most part, I had pretty good friends, and I still got some of those friends that I grew up with, and the only ones that, I guess the ones that I had the most trouble, that bothered me the most, was some of the kids that were a little wacko. Like one of the Hewley boys that somewhere around 6th grade, he was starting to bug around that he didn't look or act right, and it turns out a few years later he died of a brain tumor. So what I suspected was there. He wasn't right. But it's funny how kids can pick up on some of that stuff. But he did scare me. I was really, I avoided him like the plague. getting back to the days of on the 38th Avenue, where I guess one of the highlights was when Cousin Donald came over to socialize, and him and Darlene climbed one of the trees next to the house, and there was an old box elder tree or something like that. But anyway, I wanted to get up there too, and so Donald reached down with his hand to help pull me up, and we slipped, and I fell back down and knocked myself out. And Ma wasn't too happy about that, but nothing serious. I guess one of the things that was another incident that I ain't really proud of it, but it was kind of funny after I think about it. When we first moved into this house on 38th, I had gone upstairs to check out up there, and it just so happens that about this time I had to pee something bad. I really had to go to the toilet, and I didn't know where the toilet was. Unbeknownst to me, the toilet was out by the garage as part of the shed there, and so anyway, I decided that the window was open. There's a screen there, and I was upstairs, and so I let her go through the screen. I don't know what it is about mothers, but Ma's down below. She sees the water coming down next to the window. She's standing by below. Oh boy, did I ever catch hell for that. Of course, one of the highlights of living in the cities was also a trip back to the farm. And a trip back to the farm was quite a big deal, because that's like 125 miles down to Blue Earth that had to be accomplished on the old Highway 169, which was a nice road. It was a concrete road, but it went through every little town on the way, and I believe there was 7 towns between Blue Earth and the cities. And so, of course, when you're putting along at 40 miles an hour, it was kind of a highlight to hit a town to go through. That was something to look forward to. But it was a long trip, and it was a case where there wasn't any McDonald's or anything like that on the way. I didn't know what a restaurant was. I didn't know there was such a thing. As a matter of fact, there weren't very many that I ever knew of. And so it's a deal where we didn't even stop to go to the toilet or to get a drink. You went from one spot to the other, and sometimes you really had to go before you got there. And but anyway, we'd usually hit for Grandma's, and that was a big deal, and it was always great to greet Grandma, and then if it was the Kuss family, of course, it was Grandma and Grandpa, and then Aunt Elvina and Uncle Reinhold were still living at home when in my younger years, and so those were special, and in the summertime, usually in late June, late July, harvest time, I would end up staying at Grandma's for a couple of weeks, and that was a time when I would get over to play with Cousin Wilbur, or the second cousins, the Persig boys, Roger and Russell, and but Cousin Wilbur was Clifford Warner's boy, and Evelyn, Cousin Evelyn was around at the time too, and I can remember that she, because Aunt Ada had died a few years before, then Evelyn was pretty much taking care of the house, the washing, the cooking, and ironing, and you name it. She would be able to do it, and she was very efficient, and she was good at making cakes. And anyway, that was something I always looked forward to when we would go over to visit their family. Evelyn would usually bake a cake, and boy, that was always something extra special. And usually a big deal, a couple of pieces. But anyway, Wilbur was he was something else. Him and I got along fine. He was a little older than I was by a few years, but we got along good, and although we'd get into trouble, I know I talked him into going up that windmill one day, and old Clifford was way out in the field plowing, so there shouldn't be any problem, but sure as hell he managed to see us up on that windmill, and poor Wilbur caught hell when he got home. And then there was other things too that he'd catch heck for. They had a water tower, and somehow they would get water pumped into that water tower, and then down by the house, all he had to do was to turn a lever on a pipe that went into the ground, and water would come up, and of course that was something special. I always had to have Wilbur show me how that went, and of course it would leave a puddle, and then the old man would give him hell for opening that water spigot, and so if it wasn't one thing, it was another. One time when Clifford was visiting over by Grandma's at Aunt M's, which was just down the road and across the road from Grandma Warner's. Aunt M, Cordum, Lucy lived there, and we were all over there visiting, and Clifford comes wheeling in, him and Wilbur, with this new 1938 DeSoto, and that was a beautiful looking car, and Wilbur was going to show us the car, and I think it was Darlene and Mary and I, Marlon, were playing around the barnyard there, and the car's sitting out there parked, and Wilbur's going to show us how the hood opened, and it had there was a real fancy chrome emblem of a woman stretched out with long hair streaming back, or something of that order, that you lift that up and then it would unlatch the hood so you could lift it. Well, Wilbur was kind of a stocky, strong kid, and he grabbed all that ornament and he pushed it up and he busted it right off. Oh, you can imagine. Oh, Clifford wasn't happy about that. Oh, but that's kind of klutzy thing that it was always happening to poor Wilbur. He got in so much trouble for one thing or another that by the time he was about 16 years old, he jumped on a freight boxcar or something and went out to ended up in Montana, where he went to work for a rancher out there, and he never did move back home. But it was something different. He ended up dying out there a few years ago. He had managed to come home to visit a few times. He visited Evelyn over at her place, and that was kind of one of the bummers in life. One of my real favorite pastimes when I was at Grandma Warner's was going down and crossing the creek and getting over to the Persigs. Roger and Russell were not only good friends to play with and so on, but they were wealthy people, and they ate real good. And of course, when I was over there, that I always got in on the dinner time, and every meal old Aunt Anna cooked was mashed potatoes and gravy and meat and vegetables and fresh bread and cake or pie or cookies. There was every dinner was a big meal, and I guess the only mistake I made with her was one time they had a refrigerator. And nobody had refrigerators in those days, but the Persigs had one, and I can still remember seeing it. One of the first Frigidaires made. It had the cooling fins sitting right on top of the refrigerator, kind of a round deal with the cooling fins. And anyway, she gave me cold milk out of that refrigerator, and oh man, that was that good. I'd never had cold milk like that before, and so it was really something. But the following year, when it was a similar situation, and she asked me if I wanted some fresh milk. Well, fresh milk sounded great, but what fresh milk to her was milk that just came from the cows, so it was fresh, and it was warm. And of course, I was the type of kid, that I just, if I said I wanted something, I took it. And did I have a time trying to drink that milk down? But I drank it, and but it's good. It's kind of ironic how things went, though. The Persigs, lived high on the hog. They had modern equipment, and they had lots of beautiful farmland there, and they lived very, very, very well. And the only thing is, it cost them. Back in those days, you never heard of cholesterol. Well, and their meals were cholesterol, and I mean big time, from the bacon to the ice cream and all that they had. They all, I shouldn't say all, but most of them died early. I know that Roger, the one that was close to my age, he died at about 32 years old, something like that. Heart attack deal, and I'm sure it was the cholesterol that got him. And of course, the rest of them, the Gerald and Harlan and the old man and Anna, they all went, fairly early, and so it was too bad, but I sure liked those people. They were awful good to me. One of my favorite deals when I went over to visit them was a ride on their pony. They had this Shetland pony, and if we could catch him, we could ride him. And of course, Raj and Russell, and they entice that pony with an extra ear of corn or something, and get him over in a corner where we could throw a bridle on him, and the pony grew so fat from doing nothing but eating, and so I'd get on him and I'd mosey down the driveway. They had a driveway that was about an eighth of a mile out to the road, and I get him. He'd always want to go back, but I'd make him go till he got to that driveway. But then when I turn around, then he'd take off and run. He'd run like hell for the back to the barn, and we'd have his saddle. The saddle wouldn't fit him anymore. He was so fat. But anyway, I always managed to stay on, and Raj and Russell, they were always kind of hoping that I'd fall off. But anyway, that would always be one of the highlights of my fun over there. And then we would play with rubber guns and slingshots and things like that. When in later years they got BB guns, and then they right out of the BB guns they got rifles, 22 rifles, and not just single shot rifle. They got a Remington automatics, and they got shells by the case, and so they had fun with them too. But anyway, then of course about the last time we had any get together was just before the war broke out, and of course that disrupted most everything. But anyway, I had some great times down there on the farm, shooting the birds and the sparrows in the barn, and tangling with the beehives, and shooting each other with rubber guns, and it was great times. When I would stay over at Grandpa Kuss's, and there was a little different routine. They always had a dog, and the dog was always trained for watchdog and shepherd dog, and so when the old man Grandpa would get the cattle in, he'd just send the dog out, and he would chase the cattle in, And of course, I made a mistake one day of sending a dog when they didn't want they didn't want him to, and he took off out there after the cattle. And oh boy, Grandpa didn't like that too well. I shouldn't have done that. But Grandpa would let me steer the horses when we go to pick some sweet corn or something out of the field, and we'd take the wagon and the horses, and he'd go down the line and pick on sweet corn while I steered the horses, and then when they all ride to get together with some of the other farmers and string fence, for instance, they would run these winches, the pulley winches, to stretch that fence, and pull it tight. Then they get it hammered to the fence posts, and they were always worried that I was too close, because if that wire let loose, it would slice your head off, I suppose. But anyway, that was always something that when they went out to do something, I always liked to go along, and they would accommodate me. And I know that they tried to keep me from getting hurt, but they were a little looser with the rules than some of the others. And I know once I got to watch them butcher a pig, and that was something different. They would kill the pig, and then drop him, winch him down into scalding water so that they could skin the hide or whatever, and it was something different. I guess so. Elvina and Grandma would go to town shopping every chance they got, and they would take me along. And usually it was a case where Grandma would almost always buy me something.